Hi, this is Kate Allen with PSMJ, and today I'm hosting a mini webinar called PSMJ's Benchmarking Lunch and Learn. The intent behind these is to connect benchmarking results to operational analysis and strategies, and my ultimate objective is to encourage everyone to participate in PSMJ surveys. The more firms that participate, the better the results we can report. If you've already participated, thank you so very much, and if you haven't, I hope you'll consider participating this year. So today's topic is, what does base compensation have to do with billing rates and target direct labor multipliers? Again, this is Kate Allen. I'm the Director of Industry Surveys for PSMJ. I'm also a Senior Consultant. My background is that I'm a mechanical engineer, and I've been working with PSMJ since about 2005. Today we're going to talk about benchmarking, and we're going to drill a little deeper into senior PM base salary and billing rate. We're going to calculate various direct labor multipliers. And then again, my ultimate objective is to encourage you to participate in our benchmarking surveys. We're currently collecting data for management compensation and staff compensation, and the deadline is fast approaching. It's February 19th. So again, if you've already participated, thank you so very much. And if you haven't, I hope that you'll consider sharing your data this year. Some key terms that you're going to hear today is target direct labor multiplier, or what multiplier on direct labor costs is your firm trying to reach with its base salaries and billing rates. A break-even direct labor multiplier, or what's the multiplier on direct labor cost that your firm must reach just to break even, includes absolutely no profit. And then finally, achieve direct labor multiplier, or what multiplier on direct labor cost did your firm reach or achieve, and that comes from the financials. So there's 5 simple rules to benchmarking. The first is to verify the survey data is recent and timely. Today I'm going to be sharing with you some information from our 2015 Management Compensation Benchmark Survey Report. The data was reported in 2015, and it was collected in January and February of 2015. Second, you want to focus on a limited number of key performance metrics, and this comes up more with financial benchmarking. Third, you always want to compare your firm's performance to firms that are most similar to your firm, so you want to carefully select your peer groups. Fourth, pinpoint your performance to a spot within a benchmark range, and I'll talk more about that. And then finally, use any benchmarking results to initiate action plans in your organization. So what I'm sharing with you here is our 2015 base salary for senior PM. It's from our Management Compensation Report. You can see on the left-hand side here are different peer groups. So we report by firm size, by practice area, which means architect, engineering prime, engineering sub, etc., by client type, private, government, or mixed, and then finally by project type or market sector. So if your firm does the bulk of your revenue in transportation, your numbers might end up here, or healthcare, they might end up down there. Across the top, you'll notice that we report our data under a normal curve or a bell curve. So we report the 25th percentile, the median, which is also referred to as the 50th percentile, and the 75th percentile. The mean is nothing more than a mathematical average. So in benchmarking, if you're interested in the midpoint, you want to look more at the median. And what that means is that in this particular sample, 50% of the firms fell to the left of this particular data point, and 50% of the firms in the sample fell to the right. So the firm we're going to look at today is 75 people that practices an engineering prime. So if I want to look at base salary for a senior PM, I'll go to firm size 51 to 100, and we'll notice that the median is 100,417. Engineering prime, it's 106,823. And if I happen to be practicing in transportation, I get a little bump, 121,739. You can do exactly the same thing with billing rates. Again, this is from our management comp report. We can see that based on staff size, 51 to 100, it's about 160 per hour at the midpoint. Engineering primes, 160 per hour, and if I'm in transportation, it drops a little to 155. So how do we convert base and billing rate to a target direct labor multiplier for the senior PM? And generally, if I'm doing a compensation analysis, I bring in multiple resources. But in the interest of simplicity, we're going to focus on PSMJ's data, and we're just going to use 2 different peer groups. So if you remember, for base salary based on firm size, the median was 100,417. For engineering prime, it was 106,823. If I take a straight average, that's 103,620. You can take a weighted average, whatever works best for you. And then I want to convert that to an average hourly base salary. So in the US, I would take that annual straight average and I would divide by 2,080, which is a work year. In Canada, that number would be a little bit different. And the result is that my base salary is 49.82. And base salary does not include burden and does not include bonuses. We can do exactly the same thing for billing rate. If you recall, both of our peer groups was 160 per hour, so the straight average is also 160 per hour. If I divide that 160 by my hourly base salary of 49.82, I find I get a target direct labor multiplier for this senior PM of 3.21. What I don't know is if that's high enough for my particular firm, so we'll talk about that. So what's included in a target direct labor multiplier? There are always three components: direct labor, operating overhead, which includes indirect labor, and profit. And I've provided two different data points. In 1978, the target direct labor multiplier reported by the industry was a 3.0. So direct labor is always the basis. Overhead accounted for about 125%, so it left 0.75 as profit. Unfortunately, our overhead has been growing at a faster rate than we've been increasing our target direct labor multiplier. So the result is that profit has been compressed and it's now to 0.49. So hopefully in the next few years we'll keep pushing this number up so that we can recover some of the profit that we've lost over the years. So one of the questions we need to ask is this target direct labor multiplier of 3.21 for the senior PM, is it enough for this firm? So in order to understand that, we need to go to the firm's income statement or profit and loss statement, which they're one and the same. So this firm reports direct labor expense of $17,150,000. They report a total overhead expense, which is excludes bonuses, taxes, and discretionary distributions of about $30 million. In order to calculate an overhead rate, I'll take the overhead and divide it by the direct labor expense. That comes out to a ratio of 1.75. In order to bring that number back up to a break-even direct labor multiplier, I have to add the basis back in, which is direct labor, so I just add 1. So my break-even multiplier is a 2.75. So for this particular senior PM, a break-even billing rate, again, does not include any profit. We take the 49.82, multiply it by 2.75, and get a break-even billing rate of 137 per hour. Just real quickly, at the 60,000-foot level, we're not looking at the peer group data. We'll just check the overhead rate. We can see that for all firms in our financial performance survey last year, the median was 161%, so 175 is a little bit high. And for our top performing firms, which is our circle of excellence, 175 is quite high. I don't know if 175 is good or bad. It depends on the firm and kind of how their firm is structured. So something else you might ask is, so what would the target direct labor multiplier have to be for this firm to include 15% profit? So again, we're setting a target, and this is the equation behind it, where X is the target direct labor multiplier. We subtract our break-even multiplier and then divide by our target direct labor multiplier. So we'll start by estimating for X. So if I estimate a 3.2, subtract the break-even, divide again by my target, I get about 14% profit. Not quite enough. So I'll bump that by a tenth to 3.3, subtract my break-even, divide by my target again, and I get about 16.67. And your market might be able to handle this, and that's, I would hope it can, but our goal is to try to get closer to 15% as a profit level set within our billing rates. So let's go somewhere between 3.2 and 3.3 at 3.25. Do the same calculation, and we see it's 15.4%. It allows for 15.4% profit. So the target direct labor multiplier that this firm needs to include 15.4% profit would be a 3.25. So the final billing rate for our senior PM, if we take their 49.82 base salary per hour, multiply it by 3.25, we get a billing rate of 162 per hour. A little bit higher than the benchmark. Again, if you recall, was 160 and 160. Now the 162, what we would look at, again, this is by pinpointing in a range is the median was 160, but the 75th percentile based on firm size was 176. It was 175, so 162 looks completely reasonable. So finally, calculating your firm's achieved direct labor multiplier, again, you have to go back to the income statement or the profit and loss. And we can see that our firm did net revenue of about $54 million. If you recall, our direct labor expense was a little over $17 million. So I divide net revenue by direct labor expense, and I get an achieved direct labor multiplier of 3.08. So our goal was 3.25. Our actual achieved was 3.08. So we didn't quite make the 15.4% profit we had hoped, and our actual accrual profit should have been somewhere around 10.7%. Again, I take the achieved direct labor multiplier minus our break-even, assuming that our overhead rate stayed the same, and that resulted in just a little under 11% profit. Again, I'll go back and look at the achieved direct labor multiplier against benchmarking data. We're not breaking it down to the peer group here, but you can see that for the median firm, 3.08 is just a little bit under the midpoint, and for the circle of excellence, again, the top performing firms, a 3.08 is quite low. So the ultimate objective is for your achieved direct labor multiplier to always be greater than or equal to your target direct labor multiplier. And just a little bit of a look at some historical trend data, the target multiplier set at 3.0 forever. We got a little bump, and then we went into the economic downturn, and we've pretty well recovered. The unfortunate part is that our achieved direct labor multiplier was rather poor during this time. So we were not making the profits that we were hoping to, that were built into our billing rates. Over the years, I believe our project management processes and our ability to set fee equal to scope has improved, and so target and achieved are starting to converge here in 2015. So again, this year we have 3 surveys that we're collecting data for. The first is management compensation, which is for 18 different management roles from chairman of the board to project manager. Staff compensation, which the intent behind this one was to collect data for architects, civil, electrical, mechanical, structural engineers, etc., within the AE industry, and to differentiate it based on nothing but years of experience. We've extended the deadline for these 2 surveys to February 19th. We're also collecting information for financial performance, and that's not due until April 15th. For all participating firms, we want to always thank you very, very much for making the time for completing our surveys. So there are participant perks. If you go to psmj.com under surveys and research and click on participation, you can not only read about the perks, you can also download the surveys. And one of our most popular perks is our benchmarking tool. It's customized and it's sent out to every participating firm. So I want to talk a little bit more about that briefly. So the intent behind the benchmarking tool is that we want to say thank you. So we want to share some of the data back with you. It's an Excel-based tool, so you can benchmark your firm with the click of your mouse. So let me escape out of PowerPoint and we'll go over to the Excel file real quick. This is, if you'll notice across the bottom, there are various tabs. So we'll go to Start here, and let's just put in our firm name, and we'll use ABC. We'll go to Select Benchmark, and if you recall, my sample firm is 75 people in engineering prime. So instead of comparing to the overall survey results, I would go here to radio button number 4, which is staff size 51 to 100. Click over to Key Indicators. You can see here in this column is your firm's data. So if you complete the questionnaire, we'll actually cut your questionnaire back into your specific benchmarking tool, and we ask you in the questionnaire who we should send this back to so that it goes back to the right person in your company. We share data based on total compensation. If you recall, the peer group I selected was staff size 51 to 100. So for our CEO or managing partner, our total comp is 310. We can see that that falls somewhere between the median and the 75th percentile for this peer group. For senior VP or senior principal, 203, it also falls between the median and the 75th percentile. If we look at project manager, our firm's total comp is 103,500. which is above the 75th percentile. So let's go back and pick another peer group. Again, we're in engineering prime, so let's go look at how the data stacks up there. So we'll go back to the key indicators. And here I can see that 310 is much closer to the median this time. 203 again is much closer to the median, and 103 is just barely above the 75th percentile. So the benchmarking data looks a little bit different. We also include a tab for firm trends, so if you want to go back and put in your historical data, you can. And that shows up on key plots and historical trends, and we have a graph for each one of the positions, again, all 18 positions. What you'll see over here on the left is information based on the peer group you selected. So the blue is your firm, the gold is the 75th percentile, the burgundy is the median or 50th percentile, and the purple is the 25th percentile. If you enter your historical data, you'll see your results against the entire survey. So this is all, it's not based on peer group, it's just what the industry results were for that particular year. There's a copy of the questionnaire. This is how it's pulling your data forward, so it's your specific questionnaire that would be included here. Let's go back to the PowerPoint and continue to wrap this up. So a couple upcoming PSMJ conferences. First is our HR Summit. It's coming March 31st to April 1st with a pre-conference on March 30th. There's still time to register. Early bird deadline is February 29th, and you still save a couple $100. You can bring a colleague for half off. And the reason I want to mention that one is because Dave Burstein and I are hosting a pre-conference workshop on compensation and connecting that back to budgeting and revenue forecasting. And I'll be bringing brand new data from our 2016 compensation surveys long before it's ready for publication. Second event is our Industry Summit. It's being held in Nashville in October. Again, there's plenty of time to register, but the early bird deadline is March 31st, where you can save $800 and bring a colleague. At this particular event is where we recognize our high-performing firms in our Circle of Excellence. So again, thank you very much for your time today. I really appreciate it. Again, my overall objective is to encourage everyone to participate in our benchmarking surveys. The more firms that participate, the higher quality of the data that we can report back to the industry. If you've already reported or already participated, thank you so very much. And if you haven't, we encourage you to. If you have any questions at all, you're welcome to call or email myself or Jill Studley. She's the managing editor. And I really appreciate your time. And I hope you enjoy the rest of your day. Thanks.